Is there anything else we want to say about, where we are right now, in terms of the growing global revulsion at Israel? Ali, you wrote and published a post this week about a new survey. Um, I mean, it kind of goes back to our interview with 𝐓𝐿 talking about, Israel becoming, because of public pressure and because of this, global revulsion at this genocide, um, being more and more isolated. And so it means that we have to keep, putting more and more pressure on the levers of power to further isolate, to sanction Israel, to stop these weapons from being manufactured and delivered and then dropped on the homes of Palestinian children. Talk about this survey, what some of the key points are.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight this. I guess it's a good news story in a way, and we all need that. But the Pew Research Center, which is this very mainstream US-based research center, did a survey in 24 countries in around the world, including in Latin America, Europe, Asia, and the only country in the immediate vicinity of Palestine that they included is Turkey. And I suppose doing any more surveys in the region would have been redundant because you would have gotten unanimity. But what it found is that um, Israel's more unpopular and viewed more negatively than ever. And these shifts are significant in some areas. They say, for example, in 20 of the 24 countries surveyed, around half of adults or more have an unfavorable view of Israel. Around three quarters or more hold this view in Australia, Greece, Indonesia, Japan, the Netherlands, Spain, Sweden, and Turkey. And it was really remarkable. I mean, something stood out. For example, among the European countries they surveyed, Israel is viewed most negatively in the Netherlands, with 78% of the public viewing it negatively, which is really remarkable because uh, the Netherlands, in terms of its government, has always been one of the most pro-Israel countries. And the numbers across Europe are very high. Spain, 75%, Sweden, 75%, Germany, 64%, which is really remarkable, again, given the unanimity in support of Israel among the German political class. But again, that explains why there's so much violent repression in Germany. If the population were on board with the pro-Israel, pro-genocide policy, you wouldn't need to send the police out to beat people up all the time and to censor
Right.
people and to take them to court and so on. Even Hungary, whose government is so very staunchly pro-Israel. Remember that Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, uh, a couple of months ago, welcomed Netanyahu to Budapest, defying the International Criminal Court arrest warrant for Netanyahu. Even in Hungary, a majority of people uh, view Israel negatively. And in all of these countries, except two, Israel's negatives are far, far higher than its positives. So it has net negative ratings virtually across the world. Turkey wins the prize, so to speak, with Israel having, with 93% of the population viewing Israel negatively and only 4% viewing it favorably. But there were some other notable results. In the US, for example, uh, for the first time ever, at least the first time that I've ever seen in decades of following this issue and in all the polls I've seen, a majority of Americans now view Israel negatively. Over the last decade or so, we've seen a lot of polls showing that subsections of the US population, whether it's uh, people who lean Democrat, um, younger people, people of color, majorities view Israel negatively or support Palestinian rights. But this is the first time we see a majority of US adults overall viewing Israel negatively. That is really a historic shift. And what's also interesting is that there is a break on the American right. Pew observes that in many of the countries where it conducted the surveys, people who place themselves on the left have a more negative view of Israel than those on the right. But this ideological gap is most pronounced in the US, where 74% of liberals have a negative view of Israel compared with 30% of conservatives. But there's something really interesting here because Pew did a survey focused on Americans back in April, and there they found a sharp rise in the number of Republican voters who view Israel unfavorably. It rose from 27% to 37% just since 2022, indicating that Israel really is losing support across the political spectrum. And we can see this in terms of public discourse, in that there has been a notable new phenomenon of prominent right-wing commentators such as Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Judge Andrew Napolitano voicing skepticism and sometimes really harsh criticism of Israel and US support for Israel that once seemed unthinkable. So I
Mm.
really do think that there are some fundamental shifts going on here. As we discussed with Craig Mochaiber, it's frustrating how slow these filter through into action, but they
Yes.
are doing so. And we did see some action this week. Spain canceled a major $310 million arms deal with Israel's Rafael to buy Spike anti-tank missiles, and that's not likely to be the last such action. So things are changing, and I think that we can take heart from that, and that should encourage us.